The way you remember how to use the algorithm is by remembering daddy, mommy, sister, brother. And I usually have my students repeat that to themselves over and over. Daddy, mommy, sister, brother. Daddy, mommy, sister, brother. In addition, I usually have them write daddy, mommy, sister, brother on the side of their paper just to help them remember. Because if you don't understand what you're doing and you leave out a step, it's really going to mess you up. Daddy, mommy, sister, brother. Daddy stands for divide. Mommy stands for multiply. Sister stands for subtract. Brother stands for bring down. Or at the very end, you might bring up your remainder. So let's get started. Unlike in subtraction or addition or multiplication, in the division algorithm, you're going to start in the hundreds place or the biggest place value in your dividend. So we're starting in the hundreds place. The first thing I need to do is divide. 3 divided by 3. How many times can I take 3 out of 3? Well, that's 1 time. When I divide and find my quotient, 1, I'm going to write the answer above the place value that I'm working with. 3 divided by 3 is 1. The next step is to multiply. I multiply the number I just wrote down times the divisor. 1 times 3 is 3. And I'm going to write it down here. The next step is to subtract. Now I subtract this number. 3 minus 3 is 0. And the last step is to bring down the next number, 6. Now I'm ready to start the process all over again, starting here with 6. First thing I do is divide. 6 divided by 3. I know 6 divided by 3 is 2. I'm going to write the answer above the tens place, since that's the place that we're working with now. Next I multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to write it down here for my next step, which is subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. And my last step is to bring down. I'm going to bring down the next number in my dividend, which is 0. Now I have 0 divided by 3. I cannot take any 3's out of 0, so my quotient up here in the ones place is 0. Next I multiply. 0 times 3 is 0. I'm going to write it down here for my next step, which is subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. And my last step, since I've gotten to the end of my number, is to bring up the remainder. In this case, there is no remainder, so my answer is 120. Now in 3rd grade, we always want to check our division by multiplication. I have 165 divided by 7. Remember our pattern. Daddy, mommy, sister, brother. Daddy, mommy, sister, brother. Daddy is divide. Mommy is multiply. Sister is subtract. Brother is bring down or up if you have a remainder. Remember, when I'm doing long division with the algorithm, I always start in the largest place value. So here we go. Largest place value, I first divide. 1 divided by 7. How many times can I take 7 out of 1? I can't. 1 is less than 7. Now, in the previous example, I just wrote a 0 above this number and continued the rest of my steps. However, since this is the greatest place value, it doesn't matter if we put a 0 in front of the number, it won't change the number. So let's just go ahead and start in the next greatest place value, which in this case is the tens. So if the digit in the greatest place value is less than your divisor, you can just start in the second to the greatest place value. So instead of 1 divided by 7, I'm going to start with 16 divided by 7. 16 divided by 7 is 2, because 2 times 7 is 14, and 3 times 7 is 21, and 21 is too big of a number. Notice where I write my 2. I'm writing it above the tens place, not the hundreds place, because remember, 7 could not be taken out of 1. My second step is to multiply. 2 times 7 is 14. Next I subtract. 16 minus 14 is 2. Last, I bring down. And I'm left with 25. Now I'm ready to start the process over again. First I divide. 25 divided by 7. How many times can I take 7 out of 25? I know 3 times 7 is 21. I know 4 times 7 is 28. 28 is greater than 25, so that's too much. It must be 3. Next I multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. After that I subtract. 25 minus 21 is 4. The last thing I do is bring down my next number, but there's not another number to bring down, so I must bring up this number as the remainder of 4. Let me pause to say that if you get to this step, subtract, and you end up with a number that is greater than your divisor, if you end up with a number like 8 or 9 or 10 where you could take out 7 again, your problem was that you didn't take out 7 enough times up here. You need to go back to your division step and try that again. Your remainder should never be more than your divisor. Why don't you try 133 divided by 2? First, write it in the correct format, and don't forget to write down your family sayings so that you remember all the steps that you need to go through. Pause the video now and press play when you're finished, and I'll explain how it's done. Let me show you how to work it. First, we need to write it in the correct format. Since we're doing division, I'm going to draw my little house, write the dividend inside the house, write the divisor on the outside. I need to remember my saying, Daddy, Mommy, Sister, Brother. Daddy, Mommy, Sister, Brother. The D stands for divide, the M stands for multiply, the S stands for subtract, the B stands for bring down or bring up the remainder. Now I'm ready to go to work. Remember, when you're dividing, you start in the greatest place value. So we're going to start by dividing 1 divided by 2. How many times can I take 2 out of 1? I can't. Now remember what we talked about earlier. I could put a 0 here and go through all these steps, but since that's the greatest place value, I'm just going to go to the next place value and start with 13 instead. So dividing, 13 divided by 2. I know 2 times 7 is 14. That's too great, so it must be 6. Now I multiply. 2 times 6 is 12. Next I subtract. 13 minus 12 is 1. Last, I bring down, and I'm left with 13. I'm ready to start the process over again. First, I divide. 13 divided by 2. I know from before that that is 6. Next, I multiply. 6 times 2 is 12. After that, I subtract. 13 minus 12 is 1. And I don't have anything left to bring down, so I must bring up this 1 as the remainder.